Hey everybody, Tekking here. I have a bit of a theory video for you guys today. Something I've been thinking about ever since chapter 656, when it was revealed that Gerard was in fact the heart of the Soul King, and I'm like, oh god, not another one. You know, because at first it was like, alright, you have Uketake who has the power of the right hand, and then you had Pernida who is the left, and it's like, okay, that's kind of weird that a Quincy has a part of the is part of the Soul King. And then you have, some people were saying, like, maybe there's more limbs of the Soul King. It's going to be like the 5 pieces of Exodia. We're going to go find the legs. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just the arms. Like, no, because then Gerard had to show up and be like, no, he's actually the physical embodiment of the Soul King's heart. And Askin even brought up an interesting point. He says, I don't even know why there's supposedly parts of the Soul King when they're Quincies. Because the general idea is the Quincies are the enemies of the Shinigami. They shouldn't have fragments of the Soul Society's god with them. So here's an interesting theory that I have here. Why the Quincies are, or the Quincies have parts of the Soul King, or are parts of the Soul King. I don't think it's just Pernida and Gerard. I don't think they're just special cases. I think that every single part of every member of the Sternritters are parts of the Soul King, or have fragments of the Soul King, whether or not they're aware of it or not. And my basis for this is, alright, it starts with Yhwach, who is the father of all Quincies, okay? All Quincies sprang forth from Yhwach, okay? He's Quincy Jesus. Well, Quincy Jesus has a god for a dad, and that dad is the Soul King. He said this when he stabbed his dad right through the heart. I'm sure that must make family reunions, hard to do or whatever. He said, you've seen the future, my father. We don't really know what the seen the future part is yet, but he did state the Soul King was his father. So, however the fuck that works, the Soul King gave birth to Yhwach, who is a Quincy. So right there's your connection between the Soul Society and the Quincies. I've said before, during Pernida's fight with Mayuri, that Pernida was going on and on about evolution, so maybe the Quincies are like the evolution of the Shinigami, like the next step up somehow. But that's just my conjecture. So you had Yhwach that got the Soul King, but maybe he did more than just start the Quincies and was just the son of the Soul King. Maybe he somehow took all the Soul King's parts away from him. Or at least most of them, because we know the right arm of the Soul King, the Mimehage, that was kind of like a god that was just part of the Soul Society that, you could worship and whatever, and you could have it drawn into yourself. So maybe he stole most of the parts of the Soul King, and then he divvied that out to the Sternritter, because that was his whole deal. He gave the powers to the Sternritter, or awakened the powers within them. A couple of other things that bolster this theory is that Quincies have always had a very holy motif about them. This is like all the way back when Uryu was first introduced. They always wear white. Their symbols are always crosses or some variation of crosses. They're out to destroy evil, like they're warriors of God or something, like holy warriors. Well, who's the closest thing to a god in the Bleach universe? The Soul King. Also, the Soul King himself. Doesn't anyone ever find it really weird that he is supposed to be like the linchpin upon everything, and yet he's more of an object than anything? He's not aware of himself. Whenever we see the Soul King, it's just like he's an object encased in that glass dome just hanging there. It goes beyond just not being able to move on his own. He's not able to speak. He's not able to hear. He's not able to even... It looks like whenever he's in the room, it's like you're talking to a rock, like Yhwach and Ichigo are having this big confrontation right next to him, and the Soul King's not like, hey guys, maybe calm down and let me tell you how this works. No, he's just an object. So maybe when Yhwach, through the circumstances of Yhwach's creation, he took all the different fragments of the Soul King and divvied them out. And the biggest thing that I think boosts this for me is when the Sternritters go into their Voltstandigs, they're all aspects of God. They all follow a very similar scheme when they're named. Asnot's, for instance, is the fear of God, Tartarophorus. Robert Acotron's is Gris Manuel, which means walk of God. Kurhe's was justice of God. Pepe's was love of God. And they all have the same different naming schemes. So maybe when they're saying that, Pepe's not just being dramatic or just, oh, that name sounds cool, the God of love. No, he is literally the physical embodiment of the love of the Soul King. I know that's kind of disgusting when you think of Pepe, but I mean, I'm just going on with the idea here. Asnot is the physical interpretation of the fear that the Soul King could instill if that fear was within him. Because as God, I guess he would have all aspects of it, not just, the happy, fun aspects like God is love, God is happiness. No, he also has fear too, and all the different aspects of the Sternritters. Something else interesting, and this is something I've always wondered. I don't know if this bolsters the theory or not, but haven't you ever been curious how some of the Voltstandigs are more detailed than others? Like, you have Asnot's. When he goes into his Voltstandig, he literally transforms. His body changes. His face gets altered. Not every other Sternritter, nor most of the other Sternritters, they just get wings and a halo. Like Basby and Latato and Robert Acutron, they all just get the wings and the halo, and that looks cool, but others actually have a physical change in appearance, like Pepe actually changes. Yeah, so I'm just curious as why that is, why some of their changes are detailed all over their bodies and others just get the wings and the halo. Is it their own choice that they don't want to go all the out, or maybe it's like the ones that have a physical change are more relevant parts and all the other ones are just like lesser aspects of the Soul King, stuff like that. And this doesn't work for every Sternritter because we don't know what all their Voltstandigs is. I mean, you can ask, what about Giselle? Is she the zombie of the Soul King? We don't know what her Voltstandig was named. But she, but she also only had they were creepy like skeletal wings, but they were just wings. So maybe the ones that have physical embodiments, like their bodies actually change, they're more relevant parts of the Soul King. And then with Gerard and Pernida and Lilia being the most prominent, because I don't think... Oh, yeah, Zyrael. Yeah, we did know what Lilia's Voltstanding is, and he was always going on about, I'm the messenger of God, and he was the closest one to being, a godly creature up to this point, because he was like, he couldn't be killed, and he can just turn into light and feathers and all that shit. So yeah, maybe when, I guess, Yhwach was created and the Quincies were born through him, certain Quincies, or certain aspects like Pernida and Gerard and Lilia all came into fruition on their own. And then after that, he just awakened the powers in the other one and just bestowed a little fragment of the Soul King onto each one of the Sternritters, and that's where we are today. And another one is maybe Gremmy. Remember Gremmy? Yeah, maybe Gremmy's the brain of the Soul King. I read that theory and I was just like, yeah, right, that's just kind of like a joke. But no, I mean, seriously, think about it at this point. We never saw Gremmy's Voltstandig, so we don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to bring up here. Just what do you guys think of this theory about the different aspects of the Soul King being all the Sternritters? Let's not go into every Quincy that ever existed. Let's just go into the ones that were directly influenced by Yhwach, directly had powers awakened or given to them by Yhwach. Or the most prominent ones like Pernida, the left arm and the heart, and I guess, or the really important aspects of the Soul King, the most important, so they came into fruition on their own. But every other aspect is love and fear, they're very prominent. Then you go even before that, maybe Candace Catnip, she's the Thunderbolt, maybe that's just, God can control the weather. Meninus is just the physical power of the Soul King. Who else? We had... I'm just trying to pick out a good example here, because there's still some that don't work, I guess, like the wind, Nyanza Weisel, okay, the god can wind things, I guess, I don't know. But, yeah, and people have been saying Askin because of his poisoning ability. Maybe he's the liver of God, which, at this point, I don't even care, I thought we were going to stick to, left arm, right arm, main body. Fine, I'm good with that. But then we have the heart. So yeah, fine, fuck it. Askin can be the liver. Why not? Askin can be the liver of the Soul King. I think the bigger question here, though, is who would be the genitals of the Soul King. Probably Gremmy. I would say he's the brain, but no, he was a dick, so I'll go with Gremmy. Yeah, okay. Later, guys. Oh, and also, what do you think of my theory below? Yeah. Yeah, sorry guys, I just started thinking about Gremmy, and I just get sucked into an endless abyss of hatred and pain. But yeah, thanks for watching. Tekking101 signing out.